For decades, a U.S. military base known as Area 51 has been one of the world's worst-kept secrets. Although the government officially denies it exists, many people speculate about UFOs and secret military projects connected to the site. This mystery draws in both tourists and locals. What's more alarming is that the base is completely off limits to the public, with entrances located miles away from the actual facility. Trying to enter this restricted area can lead to serious consequences, including the use of deadly force by security personnel guarding the base. Now, have you ever thought about what it would be like to work at a top-secret facility? For instance, imagine if your office was at Area 51. How would you get there? Today, we're driving into that topic, including a pretty unusual airline called Janet. Stick around. So, let's start our video with what NOTAM is. It stands for Notice to Airman or Air Missions, depending on where you are in the world. Essentially, NOTAMs are alerts that inform pilots about temporary issues that could impact their flights. We check these notices for our destination, alternate routes, and where we're starting from. There's a lot of information involved. NOTAMs also cover airspace restrictions. In March 2021, the FAA issued a unique NOTAM that closed off some airspace, creating a corridor stretching from a quiet desert area in Nevada all the way to the Pacific Ocean. This corridor cut through some busy airspace in the western U.S., where flights come in and out of cities like Los Angeles, San Francisco, and Las Vegas. Fortunately, there was another detail in the NOTAM that made it both intriguing and less disruptive for most airlines. The closed corridor was really high, from flight level 450 to 60,000 feet, and only 20 miles wide. Some Boeing 747s can fly as high as 45,000 feet, but unless someone is secretly trying to bring back the Concorde, no regular passenger plane would be affected by the airspace closure. However, some business jets can reach altitudes of 50,000 feet, which is why the FAA issued that NOTAM. The interesting question is why this airspace was closed off in the first place. What was it reserved for? We don't have a clear answer, and we don't even know if anyone actually used it during the 2.5 hours the NOTAM was in effect. It's possible that whatever was planned got canceled due to weather, or maybe they found a way to fly even higher. However, it seems likely that this restriction was for something a bit secretive, especially since the eastern edge of this airspace is near the Nevada Test and Training Range. This area is quite large and has several military test facilities, the most famous being Groom Lake, also known as Area 51. The FAA issued a NOTAM in 2021 that caught people's attention, and while a few similar notices have popped up since, they are among the few times Area 51 has made headlines. Another unusual instance is job openings at Area 51, which I'll explain later. So what exactly is Area 51? And where did all those stories about little green men supposedly being kept there come from? As with many conspiracy-related topics, there are several different theories. In the early 20th century, the rocky land that is now the Nevada Test and Training Range attracted prospectors looking for silver and gold, and some found success. One theory about the name Area 51 links back to this mining period. The Tonopah Mining District was split into smaller areas for better management, simply labeled as Area 1, Area 2, Area 3, and so on. That gives you an idea of how the name originated. There's some debate about whether the name Area 51 dates back to earlier times, but part of that region was numbered similarly by the Atomic Energy Commission a few decades later. Starting in 1942, access to large parts of the area was restricted for the first time. This was during World War II, and the military needed a remote place to test new bombs and weapons without the distraction of civilians. Over the years, the area had several name changes, including the Tonopah General Range, the Tonopah Bombing Range, and the Las Vegas General Range. After the war, much of the area was used for nuclear weapons testing. However, it's important to note that this was not where the U.S. tested nuclear bombs during World War II. Those tests happened later, in the 1950s. Before Las Vegas became famous for gambling, people would actually travel there to watch nuclear weapons being detonated, just a few dozen miles north of the city. Fortunately, not all sealed-off areas were subjected to nuclear blasts. One of the locations that was spared is Area 51. Some conspiracy theorists believe that the U.S. Air Force, or CIA, was studying captured flying saucers or extraterrestrial beings at Area 51. While these ideas might seem like a hassle for the military, they actually served as a cover for what was really happening here. The actual activities began in 1955 and involved Lockheed, particularly a talented designer named Kelly Johnson, who led Lockheed's design team. Lockheed, the CIA, and the U.S. Air Force faced a challenge. Lockheed had a secretive division called Skunk Works, known for designing and manufacturing advanced aircraft, including the U-2 spy plane, which is key to this story. The issue was that Skunk Works was located in Palmdale, California. While it wasn't a heavily populated area in the 1950s, those involved quickly realized they needed a more discreet place to conduct flight tests for the U-2, which was initially known as Project Aquatone. The search for a discreet testing site eventually led to a dry lake bed called Groom Lake, located about 195 nautical miles northeast of Skunk Works. In the 1940s, the Army Air Force built a small dirt runway next to the lake, but Kelly Johnson and his team at Lockheed weren't interested in that. They saw the dry lake bed itself as the real prize because it was flat and ideal for testing. This area became known as Area 51. Before long, new testing facilities were built, including a paved runway on the south side of the lake. This is where projects like Aquatone and the U-2 were developed, followed by Project Oxcart and the SR-71. Even later, advanced aircraft like the F-117 Nighthawk were created there, along with many other projects that remain classified. As the base expanded, its layout changed to accommodate the needs of newer, more advanced aircraft. Of course, all these operations and facilities required a lot of personnel, and they needed a way to get there. But why did they need to be flown in by a special airline? Over the years, there have been many theories about why the airline that flies people to and from Area 51 is called Janet. Interestingly, it's not an official name. It's just a call sign the company uses on the radio. One theory suggests it stands for something like just another non-existent terminal, while another idea is that it means Joint Area Network for Employee Transportation, which is a bit less exciting. Janet operates out of Harry Reid International Airport in Las Vegas, which was previously known as McCarran Airport. If you fly into Vegas with a regular airline, that's the airport you'll likely use. However, Janet doesn't use the main terminal. Instead, it has its own terminal on the west side of the airport, where corporate jets and helicopters also operate. On that side, Janet has its own secure facilities. The planes used by Janet are reportedly owned by the U.S. Air Force, but various government service contractors have managed the operation over the years, using low-profile names like EG&G, URS Corporation, AECOM, and Amentum. All Janet aircraft are Boeing 737s registered for commercial use, and they have some unique features that set them apart. First, all these planes used to fly for Air China for about 6 years, starting around 2003 and continuing until 2009. Some even flew for Southwest Airlines in China before that, but those jets were leased from Gekas, which is part of General Electric and not owned by Air China. By 2008 or 2009, Gekas began transferring these 737s to the U.S. Air Force. This means that the jets currently transporting workers to and from Area 51 actually had Air China colors at one point, which is a pretty interesting twist. Another unusual thing about these 737s is that they're 737-600s, one of the rarest versions of the 737. While they belong to the same generation as the more common 737-800s, the 737-600s have much shorter fuselages, almost like the original models. Boeing produced only 69 of these planes, making the 737-600 the second rarest variant after the original 100. It was designed as a replacement for the 737-500, which didn't sell well either. In a way, the 600 is Boeing's answer to the rare Airbus A318, often called the baby bus. Because the 737-600 has the same powerful engines as other 737NG models, but a much shorter body, it needed a taller vertical stabilizer and rudder to keep it stable in case of an engine failure during takeoff. This combination of a high fin and short fuselage gives the plane a unique appearance, almost like a photo with an odd aspect ratio. Janet has a straightforward design for its planes, featuring no company logos and just a red line along the passenger windows. This design is the same one that the company used on its earlier aircraft, the 737-200s. Before those, the fleet included a Douglas DC-6, which was retired in 1981. The Janet fleet also has several Beechcraft B200s and 1900 turboprops. In fact, one of these, a Beechcraft 1900C with the tail number N27RA, is known for being involved in Janet's only recorded accident. It crashed in 2004, resulting in the loss of all 5 people on board when the pilot suffered a cardiac arrest. The distance the Janet fleet travels to Area 51 is quite short, around 100 nautical miles, depending on the route. In the 737, this journey usually takes about half an hour, with the plane climbing to around 15,000 feet, relatively low since Area 51's elevation is about 4,500 feet above sea level. Given the short distance, it raises the question, is the Janet fleet really necessary? Couldn't there be a simpler way to get people to and from work each day instead of using a fleet of 737s? To answer that, we need to consider a few things. First, Janet doesn't only fly to Area 51. Its 737s also transport personnel to other bases within the Nevada Test and Training Range, like the Tonopah Test Range. Additionally, they service other military installations across the country. Second, building enough housing for everyone close to Area 51 would bring its own challenges. If people live there, they need access to shopping, schools, hospitals, and other infrastructure. This would increase the number of people needing security clearances and approvals to be near the area. If you've seen the movie Oppenheimer, which covers the town built around the Manhattan Project, you might get where I'm coming from. It seems like the US government wanted to avoid the complications that came with Area 51, so they opted to keep a tight security perimeter and just fly in the necessary personnel. In July 2019, someone jokingly suggested on a Facebook page that people should gather around Area 51 and storm it to see aliens. This didn't lead to much except some music festivals held at a safe distance. A few people got closer to the base and ended up getting arrested. According to police, one person was arrested for trespassing early one Friday morning, and the sign at the gate clearly states 6 months imprisonment, strictly enforced. A few months earlier, in January 2019, a man was shot after trying to drive through a barrier to get to the base. Fortunately, serious incidents like this are rare. The guards at these sites are probably relieved that most workers fly in and out. Despite all this, it's fair to say that Area 51 is less of a secret than it used to be. With tools like Google Maps and flight tracking websites, it's hard to keep things under wraps. In the past, Janet aircraft would reportedly turn off their transponders after leaving Las Vegas, but that doesn't seem to happen anymore. While you can't track the planes all the way into Area 51 on sites like Flight Radar 24, that might be more about signal issues in the mountains than any secretive practices. Interestingly, since 2007, Area 51 has had its own ICAO Airport Identifier, KXTA, and its official name is Homey Airport. This could be a fun idea for some merchandise. If you're curious, you can even find Jeppesen arrival and departure charts for the airport today, complete with detailed approaches and facility information. However, unless you've made arrangements and they're expecting you, I wouldn't recommend trying to land your rented Cessna 172 there. It could get you into some serious trouble. If you really want to fly there and don't work at the base, your best bet would be to look for a job with Janet as a flight or cabin crew, which isn't easy to get. The company that manages Janet for the military does post job openings for crews, but these listings are pretty rare, sometimes taking 8 years or more between them. While performing well in the interview is always crucial for airline jobs and you can expect some tough security checks, working for Janet comes with a surprisingly tough interview process. To apply for a job with this airline, you need to either have or obtain a top secret security clearance, which is not easy or inexpensive to get. Most people who secure such a clearance usually have prior government or military experience. If you don't already have one, the interview process to obtain it includes questions that typical HR staff wouldn't be able to ask. These questions can cover topics like your loyalty to the United States, any foreign ties, personal behavior, financial issues, substance use, mental health, criminal history, security violations, outside activities, and misuse of technology. I'm not entirely sure what sexual behavior refers to in this context, but according to a recent FAQ page from the U.S. State Department, they claim they don't make decisions based on sexual orientation. Right now, the biggest challenge in getting this job is actually finding an opening, since the last job listing we found was from 2018. However, you never know. These are airline jobs, and there's a significant pilot shortage in the U.S. There are still many unknowns about Janet, and it's likely to stay that way. One thing I'm curious about is why they operate out of Harry Reid in Las Vegas instead of Nellis Air Force Base. Both are in Vegas, with the commercial airport in the south and the air base in the northeast. If you have any thoughts on that, let me know in the comments. Regardless of what happens, it looks like Janet and Area 51 will continue to be busy for the foreseeable future, even if there aren't any extraterrestrial beings held there. It's clear that more advanced spacecraft and projects will keep being developed and tested there. Interestingly, we also found out that Area 51 was where the U.S. Air Force and Navy stored several captured Soviet military aircraft. Their pilots used these planes for training to learn about their weaknesses. This was one of the last major secrets about Area 51 to come out, and it seems that similar work is still happening with newer foreign jets. Reports indicate that the loss of an experienced U.S. Air Force pilot in 2017 was linked to an accident involving a Sukhoi 27. The aircraft had issues with its landing gear, followed by a malfunction of the ejection seat. With the ongoing war in Ukraine and tensions rising in various parts of the world, it looked like the staff at Area 51 and similar facilities will have a lot to keep them occupied. The airline that supports them will be busy as well. Area 51 is a name that conjures up a lot of intrigue and speculation. While it officially functions as a military base primarily for testing experimental aircraft, its secretive nature has turned into a focal point for conspiracy theories and UFO enthusiasts. Established in the 1950s, Area 51 was originally a testing ground for the U-2 spy plane, but it has evolved into a site where many classified military projects take place. The secrecy surrounding Area 51 has led many to believe that it harbors evidence of extraterrestrial life or advanced alien technology. Though the government denies these claims, the speculation persists. Documentaries, books, and various media have kept the stories alive, often portraying the base as a center for hidden research and advanced experiments. The public's imagination runs wild with tales of alien spacecraft and government cover-ups, fueling an ongoing fascination with the site. Area 51 is also rumored to be involved in cutting-edge developments like stealth technology and drone warfare. The facility has been linked to the creation of iconic aircraft such as the F-117 Nighthawk and the B-2 Spirit bomber. These aircraft represent significant leaps in military technology and highlight the U.S. military's commitment to staying ahead of potential threats. The small town of Rachel, Nevada, located near Area 51, has embraced its reputation as a hub for UFO enthusiasts and curious travelers. The town's businesses cater to visitors, offering everything from guided tours to themed merchandise. Events like Alien Stock attract fans who want to celebrate the lore surrounding the base and share their own stories and theories. So thanks for watching. If you enjoyed, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more content like this.